I am a neurologist, and I absolutely love my patients and my job. I believe there is no greater honor in life than being able to help others. The road to my medical degree was not easy, and it was paved with many rejections. I was a troubled teen in high school, and I didn't get accepted into any colleges my senior year. I had to work my way up, starting with remedial classes at my local community college. When I finally got into medical school at 26, I was absolutely thrilled. I met my husband in my third year of medical school. We have been married for 4 years now. My husband works in marketing, and I make 3 times his salary. From the beginning of our relationship, I was very upfront that I was unsure about having biological children. My dream was always to adopt from foster care, and my husband seemingly understood this. However, after his best friend had a baby boy last year, he began to really press me on having children. I was initially very against this idea because I was just beginning my career. I wanted to wait a few more years before revisiting the topic of children. In August of last year, I found out I was unexpectedly pregnant due to a condom breaking during intimacy. I was initially considering a baby unaliving, but after many heartfelt conversations with my husband, we decided to keep the baby, and he would quit his job and stay home until our daughter was old enough to start preschool. There were several factors that went into our decision to have him stay home with our daughter. I make significantly more money than him, so financially it just made more sense. I am in the first few years of my career as an attending physician. After 4 years of med school and a 4-year residency, I am just starting to practice on my own, whereas my husband has been in his career for 15 years. I was very clear, I had absolutely zero desire to stay home and be a housewife. I respect stay-at-home mothers, but my work is my life, and I would go crazy at home all day. This just isn't a lifestyle I want whatsoever. Finally, I am not comfortable putting my child in daycare until she is old enough to express herself verbally. As a victim of molestation when I was young, I just do not trust people enough to leave my daughter in the hands of strangers when she would be unable to report abuse neglect. Our daughter is 9 weeks old today, and I am preparing to return to my practice in a few weeks. This weekend, I left my husband alone with our daughter while I attended a medical conference out of state. The conference was amazing, but when I returned home, my husband began acting weird. Today, when our daughter was napping, I pressed him to tell me what was wrong. He absolutely broke down and said he doesn't think he can do this. He expressed how trapped, alone, and overwhelmed he felt all weekend. He now wants me to extend my maternity leave and is talking about trying to get his job back. This made me freak out, and I asked, well, what will we do with our daughter now? He responded by suggesting I leave my practice and work from home. I said absolutely not, and he suggested daycare. At this point, I just lost my shoot and screamed, if I knew you were going to back out of your promise to take care of our daughter, I would have never had your child. I know I completely overreacted, and I would never trade our daughter for anything. I love her so much, but I am so upset with my husband, and I'm not sure how to move forward at this point. Now for some comments. One commenter asked, can you get a nanny? Another commenter suggested, this would totally work. My husband worked from home, but we also had a nanny, so he can visit our daughter a lot during the day, but he was also child-free for working. I, of course, went to the office every day. Our nanny was wonderful. You just have to know exactly what you're looking for and screen for that. Someone else noted, it's also worth noting that OP at least seems to be in a fair position to hire an above-average nanny. So rather than hiring some teenager or college student that's just trying to make an extra buck with a glorified babysitting gig on the days they're otherwise free, they could get an educated, certified professional whose own career livelihood would be entirely on the line were something to go wrong. And maybe financially speaking, paying for such a good nanny just so that the dad can go back to work ends up being a wash. But it'd let both of them go back to work like they want and keep their kid cared for. Another commenter shared, I was an above-average nanny. This is a great solution. My charges got very little TV, lots of trips to parks, libraries, events, living history museums. We did lots of art, music, stories, and mostly someone who talked to them, answered their questions with real answers. An enriching environment is critical to intellectual growth, and adults who are emotionally dependable are critical to emotional growth. Find a nanny who understands this and sings songs and brings treats. A different commenter pointed out, NTA but OP, I would consider the red flags here. He wanted a child, and you unexpectedly got pregnant. Now he wants to go back to work, and the deal unexpectedly changed. Plus, why he felt alone and overwhelmed when he stayed home, but seems no concern for you to stay home and surely feel the same. Another comment mentioned, 2 days. He was alone for 2 days and had a complete breakdown. The baby is 9 weeks old. They pretty much eat, poop, and sleep at that age. My husband used to put the baby in the kangaroo carrier and play video games while the baby slept on his chest. Also, anyone else get the feeling he's done nothing over the past 9 weeks to help with the baby? which is why the one weekend was so overwhelming. Edit. Yes, I'm being very glib and making generalizations about what a 9-week-old is like. I still maintain he could have figured out something for 48 hours, and the whole, but my friends are having babies, to the condom broke, to the promises about him staying home with the baby, especially with him knowing about OP's trauma, really makes him look suspiciously like a jerk. He either bit off more than he's willing to chew, or he never had any intention of living up to his side of the bargain. Now for the 3-month update. Hi everyone, it's been a few months since I made my original post. I did not expect my post to get so much attention, and I was frankly overwhelmed by it. Thousands of comments and hundreds of DMs, and I even found my post screenshotted and uploaded on Twitter. To everyone who sent me kind and supportive DMs, thank you very much. I appreciate it more than you know. To those who sent me nasty DMs, criticizing me as a mother, you are part of the reason why 40% of female doctors go part-time or leave medicine altogether within 6 years of completing their residencies. Women can want a career and a family, like men have had for hundreds of years. This does not make us evil monsters. To those who sent me DMs seeking medical advice, I am not comfortable giving medical advice over Reddit, and I sincerely hope that you find the care you need. To those questioning why I was not on birth control, I address this more in a separate comment, but hormonal birth control does not work for every woman. Even board-certified OBGYNs will testify to this. After trying my best with every birth control under the sun for nearly 10 years, I decided condoms and pull-out would be enough. Was this a stupid decision? Yes. But 40% of doctors are overweight, so we aren't always the best at taking care of our own health. Regardless, I have no regrets. I love my daughter and would not change a thing. Okay, now for the actual update. I realized how awful what I said to my husband was. No matter how upset I was, I never should have used our daughter as leverage in an argument. Even if I had to quit my job tomorrow and become a single mom, I would still do it for her because I love her more than anything and I would choose her every time. I still feel awful that I said this. It was truly a terrible thing to say. Another thing I dropped the ball on was not being more patient and accepting with my husband. For some context, my mother came from out of town to stay with us for the first 8 weeks after I gave birth. My husband did contribute greatly. I'd honestly say they both did 50% of the work with the baby for the first week or so while I recovered. After that, we split the work between the 3 of us. So, for him to go from 2 people supporting him to being on his own for a whole weekend in a matter of about 10 days was obviously a huge shock, and I should have realized this. His complaints about feeling trapped, overwhelmed, and alone are the exact reasons why I have no desire to be a stay-at-home mom. Yes, we had a deal, but I should have given him space to express his concerns openly without me flipping shoot. I stayed at my sister's with our daughter for a few days after the fight to give my husband some space. He would come to visit her every day during this period, but we agreed not to talk yet. When I came home, I apologized to him for mishandling the situation. To my surprise, he actually apologized too. He told me that he never intended to back out of our agreement. He just became so overwhelmed that he was unsure he was capable of caring for our daughter properly. He apologized for giving up so fast and suggesting that I work from home. He told me that no matter what we decided to do, I should not leave my practice. At the end of his apologies, he said that he wanted to give being a stay-at-home dad another shot. We then had a very long conversation about how we would handle things from there. He told me that caring for our daughter was not the overwhelming part. It was trying to keep up with the cooking and cleaning that was difficult. So we decided to hire a maid and buy one of those meal kit delivery services. He joined one of those new parent support groups to help reduce his isolation. 3 times a week, my sister-in-law has agreed to come over to babysit for a few hours so he can go to the gym or have some me time. I also told him that if at any point he feels like he can't be SHD anymore, to please tell me. I made it very clear that while I would be slightly disappointed, I would be much more disappointed knowing that he was burnt out and upset while caring for our daughter. Since this, we've also taken steps to strengthen our marriage, going on date nights once a week. I don't yet feel comfortable leaving our daughter with anyone besides family, so most of these date nights include long walks while pushing her in the stroller or Netflix and takeout on the couch. But hey, it's been working. Addressing the whole poking holes in the condom thing. No, I do not think this happened. I honestly did not even bother asking my husband this. I felt that an accusation of this magnitude would be detrimental to our marriage, especially when it was already in such a fragile state. My husband has agreed to get a vasectomy so we don't have any more happy accidents. He is scheduled for later this year, and we are abstaining from PIV until then. This whole situation has made me realize I needed to go back to therapy, and I have been seeing my therapist for about 6 weeks now. My CSA hadn't impacted my life for about 8 years prior to this, but having my daughter and dealing with postpartum anxiety has stirred up some really dark thoughts. I know that I am being overprotective due to my trauma, and I want to work through this so that I can be a good mother and a good partner. A lot of people told me to leave my husband, and I'm sure a lot of people reading this may think that I'm making a mistake. I know that I am not. My husband had a weak moment and broke down, but he does not have a pattern of being unreliable, dishonest, or unsupportive. He supported me through my final 2 years of med school and throughout my residency. Please try to remember that my post highlighted the worst moment in our relationship. It did not show the 8 wonderful years we have had together. Now for a few comments. Calm Kriza said, "Glad to hear things are looking up. Sounds like you both took some good steps to address the issues and strengthen your relationship." Vegaburger commented, "Yes, well done, OP. I am happy that you guys seem to take every step seriously and are taking care of yourselves and your daughter." Very much Dutch 102 shared, "NTA, I'm mostly the stay-at-home dad. It is hard, lol, but what really helps is that my daughter goes to daycare sometimes. That gives me opportunity to be myself and do my own stuff and the household stuff." Rana Iyer added, "And one thing to remember is that time flies by, really. One moment they are preschoolers, and then they are finishing primary school. As they grow older and older, they gain in independence, and parents don't need to be on top of them as much, changing them, feeding them. Hope things continue to work out for you all." Am I the idiot for refusing to let my husband's family near our daughter after they demanded a paternity test? My partner and I have been together for over 4 years, and I recently gave birth to our daughter. We had kept the pregnancy to ourselves until our baby was born, happy and healthy, due to worries about complications, as I faced a high-risk pregnancy. We told our families after she was born. While my family was ecstatic, his was questioning if we hid it for ulterior reasons. They've always heavily disliked me and believe I'm just with their son for money. Yesterday, we took her to meet her grandparents from his side, and after some polite conversation, they dropped the bomb that they would be doing a paternity test that he agreed to. To not make myself look suspicious, I agreed to it, but afterward made it clear to my partner that I felt incredibly disrespected. Cue an argument where he told me it wasn't a big deal if it was his and that the test was requested by them to ease their uncertainty. Fast forward to today, I was having lunch with my mother and told her about the incident, which left her pissed off and calling my partner a couple of names for insinuating I could have cheated. My mother ended up telling my grandparents, who in a rage told him they would no longer accept him in their house for disrespecting me in such a way when the child is practically his twin. We had another argument about it, and he screamed, saying I ruined his image by telling them. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments. One commenter asked why his family knew about it and encouraged it, but her family shouldn't know what he was asking of her. Another said he didn't care how she looked to his family, so why should she care how he looks to hers? Someone asking this of their daughter would find their butt on the curb and no longer welcome in their house. They'd probably move their daughter and grandbaby home until he groveled. Another commenter mentioned that he knows the whole paternity test idea is wrong and unfair and didn't want anyone else to know that he has been complicit in his family's mistrust of OP. Finally, someone said he didn't care how she felt when he asked for the paternity test, but now he expects her to care about his feelings. That road goes both ways. Judgment, not the idiot. Update, 2 weeks later. There's more to it than just the test. I had always stressed to my partner that I wanted his mother specifically at a distance from our child. This was due to how horrific she treated us both for the first year of our relationship prior to us moving out together. Secondly, the woman is bipolar and abused my partner both physically and mentally when he was growing up as a child due to him having ADHD and being more hyper. This is what he told me, at least. Knowing this, I'm obviously wary of his mother around my daughter. The paternity test was just the nail in the coffin for me. So 2 days ago, my partner's mother received the results of the paternity test, which of course showed my partner to be the father. They immediately called him super ecstatic and ready to take their place in the life of my daughter. My partner was also incredibly happy as well, since we would now be receiving their support due to the confirmation of my daughter being his. For reference, since he's studying and doesn't work, his family pays for his school and his half of the bills. I, on the other hand, work and pay my half of the bills myself. In other words, he's reliant on them financially despite my insistence that we could survive off my salary. To his dismay, though, with the confirmation of his paternity assured, I told him I wanted a break from him and his family's antics. This is not the first stunt they pull that antagonizes me. Before this is flooded with questions as to why I didn't leave sooner, I was naive and thought our love for each other would beat their disapproval of our relationship. It wasn't. That is clear to me now. We ended up arguing over it, but against his wishes. I packed a bag for me and the baby anyways and drove to stay with my parents. He apologized at night and agreed that his part in the entire paternity stunt was messed up, but that he agreed it had to be done even if he was certain she was his. Fast forward to yesterday, he texted me asking if I was willing to see him as he missed me and the baby. I agreed, assuming we could move past the whole ordeal. My family is still against him stepping foot in their house, so we ended up meeting at a park to walk around. He apologized again and told me that the test was done so his family could trust me and willingly be a part of our daughter's life, though I admitted that I had no intentions of letting them be around her till they at least apologized to me. This heated him up, and he began screaming, claiming that as her father, I had no right to keep her from his family no matter what they did. I disagreed though, advising him that if they couldn't respect me, they had no reason to be a part of her life. The argument went nowhere, and I left with the baby back to my parents. He's since been texting and calling me saying that he'd take me to court if I deprive his family access to her. I don't think my position on the matter is wrong, but to him, I'm an AH for it. Now for a few comments. One commenter noticed he says his family, not his rights, and suggested getting a family lawyer. Another advised that OP needs to stop posting online and talk to an actual qualified legal professional. Someone else pointed out that it sounds like they have money, and she does not, and it sucks, but they're going to get access to the daughter. Update. 9 months later, I wasn't planning to update, but upon seeing all the requests, I figured I'd do one. If you want the full story, it's all up on my profile. Since my last update, which was around 9 months ago, a lot has happened. As if the paternity test, awful in-laws, and disrespect wasn't enough, my partner was also cheating on me. According to him, it was all emotional and nothing physical, although I find it hard to believe this. Turns out, this emotional affairs have been going on since I was pregnant with multiple girls. He got caught after deciding last second to meet up with one of them at 11 p.m. one night. He claims they were just playing poker with a group and weren't alone together. Likely story. He was ignoring my messages and calls, so I called his best friend, thinking he was with him, who gave him away. Since then, we obviously broke up, and I moved down with my family and our daughter. Originally, I tried to be a bigger person and consider our daughter before my own feelings and decided to co-parent. He would come see her on weekends, and for a while it worked. He moved down to his mother's house after his semester ended, claiming our place was too much for him to pay alone. However, the real reason was that he was kicked out of his university due to poor attendance and grades. Fast forward, and he began demanding overnight custody of our daughter. I told him he couldn't because she was still strictly breastfed and needed me at all times. He decided to argue our custody in court. Up until now, I hadn't asked him for any financial support for our daughter. If he saw her, it was his choice, and I never made him pay child support. After going to court, not only does he have to pay a hefty sum for child support, but he wasn't awarded partial custody. The court discovered that he didn't have a stable job or living situation after his mother kicked him out. His mother left him homeless and disowned him after she discovered he was kicked out of university. Although I want to say it's karma, I don't believe anyone deserves that situation. That was back in June. Now, he and I are doing better. He's moved into a studio, and we agreed he could have her every other week, plus on his off days from work. Admittedly, it's hard not to break down whenever he's around me. I still feel a lot of pain from discovering he found solace with other women, but we have moved past it for the most part and are co-parenting without problems. Thankfully, I've come out stronger. Our daughter has become my main focus, and I advanced in my career to a place where I can live comfortably. It's not the happy ending I wish for, but given everything, it's the best one. Now for a few comments. One commenter expressed concern that I might be setting him up to get 50% custody at his convenience, which could lower my child support payments if the court makes the arrangement official. They advised consulting an attorney before giving up more custody than I want to establish permanently, and noted that I seem to be conforming to his schedule. Another commenter agreed, saying they wouldn't give him 50-50 custody until a court ordered it. They questioned his stability, considering he's shown to be a liar and makes poor choices. They suggested sticking to the court's decision and not allowing overnight visits or 50-50 custody until the court decides otherwise. Am I the idiot for kicking my brother out of my wedding, for humiliating my wife and refusing to apologize? My wedding was this past weekend, and I'm honestly still in shock over what happened. My fiancé, now wife, and I have been together for 7 years. We've gone through everything together. Moving in, job losses, her battle with anxiety, everything. So our wedding day was supposed to be our day to finally celebrate all that, right? Well, it was until my brother decided to ruin it. For context, my brother, male 30, has always had a weird thing about pranks. He calls them jokes, but honestly, they've always been mean-spirited and embarrassing. Growing up, I'd laugh it off or get mad, and he'd say I was being too sensitive. But this time, it went way too far. During our reception, he got up to give a speech. I thought it would be nice. Maybe he'd say something heartfelt for once. But no, instead, he pulls out a slideshow of hilarious photos of my wife. Old ones from her Instagram where she's crying, looking vulnerable, or just super unflattering. And he starts making jokes about her weight fluctuations, saying how she used to look like a twig when we first started dating, and now she's more well-fed. My wife's face turned white. She started crying quietly, and my brother, he just kept going, laughing like he was the funniest guy on the planet. The whole room was dead silent. I saw red. I stood up, walked right over to him, and told him to leave, right in the middle of his speech. I said he was done, and I didn't care if he was my brother. My wife was humiliated. He tried to brush it off, saying I was ruining the fun and that everyone else thought it was funny. No one laughed, not one person. He refused to leave at first, so I told security to get him out. He stormed out, calling me a drama queen on the way out. Now, my parents are furious with me for embarrassing my brother at my own wedding. They think I overreacted, that I should have let it slide because he didn't mean it. My mom even said my wife was overreacting too, and that this was all just part of his sense of humor. My wife hasn't stopped crying since. I told my family we're taking a break from them, but now my phone is blowing up with texts from my mom and dad, saying I've fractured the family and ruined my own wedding over a joke. I get that I blew up, but I couldn't stand seeing my wife so hurt. Did I go too far? Now for a few comments. Acceptable Wind-7332 said, "Your brother really embarrassed your wife in what was meant to be a special day to celebrate you both. It sounds like he's got a lot of growing up to do, and you are the first one to tell him so. Your wife is now a part of your family, and your brother needs to realize that he has seriously messed up. Your parents have probably been enabling your brother too. He needs to man up and apologize, not the idiot," Music Mammy commented. And now everyone knows what a complete jerk the brother is. Someone has just got to tell the parents they've backed the wrong child. Construction No 9678 added, "I'd bet good money that fractured the family means that everyone else now thinks OP's brother, and possibly parents too, are weirdos for this whole situation. This wasn't a prank. He curated a slideshow and roast session for the wedding. It's even stranger because it was completely uneven. Why does he feel the need to pick on the bride over his own brother? Probably because he knew she'd give him the reaction he wanted, and he's a jerk." Now for the 12-day update. Hey everyone, I posted here a little while ago about what went down at my wedding, and I just wanted to say thank you for all your comments and support. It's been a rough week, but I figured I'd update everyone on what's happened since then. After kicking my brother out, I stuck to my word and told my family we were taking a break. I blocked my brother on everything, and my wife and I decided to focus on each other for the week, just trying to recapture some of the joy that was stolen from us on our big day. We went on a mini honeymoon to a cabin we'd rented and tried to shut out the drama for a bit. However, as soon as we got back, my parents showed up unannounced. They claimed they just wanted to talk it out, but the second they sat down, it was clear they were there to defend my brother. They kept repeating that I overreacted and that he was just trying to be funny. My mom even said, "You know how your brother is. He didn't mean to hurt anyone." I told them that whether he meant it or not, he did hurt my wife, and that's not something I can just brush off. My dad then hit me with, "Family is family. You don't turn your back on blood." And I honestly lost it. I told them that my family is the one I chose to build with my wife, and if they can't respect her, then they don't get to be a part of our lives. They left in a huff, saying that I was being manipulated and that my wife was too sensitive. The day after that, my brother tried reaching out, through a mutual cousin this time, saying he didn't mean any harm and that he's willing to forgive me if I apologize for embarrassing him in front of everyone. This absolutely floored me. I realized in that moment that he still doesn't see what he did as wrong. I haven't responded, and I don't plan to. My wife and I have started couples therapy, not because there's anything wrong between us, but because I want to make sure that she feels supported and knows that I'm fully on her side. It's been helping her process what happened, and I think it's helping me realize just how toxic my brother's behavior has always been. We've decided to have a small, private vow renewal next year, just us and a few close friends, to reclaim what that day was supposed to be for us. In the meantime, we're focusing on our future together and cutting out anyone who doesn't respect us as a couple. So yeah, maybe I did fracture my family, but if my brother's jokes are more important to them than my wife's happiness, then I'm honestly okay with that. Thank you again to everyone who reached out. It meant more than you know. Now for a few comments. Faithful Neighbors said, "NTA, as we said in your previous post, screw your family. You deserve a good life with your wife." Jellico Alpha 31 commented, "Mom, Dad, Brother, here is a bill for our wedding and the reception. Until I am reimbursed in full, I am going no contact with all three of you. And for the record, this is my decision. My wife wants to let all this go and move on, but I do not. You all have made excuses for brother's shitty, immature behavior his entire life, and now it's cost you one of your children. The three of you will pay for the wedding brother ruined, even if you have to mortgage your house and work until you are 80 to do it. Or this will be the last time any of you see or hear from me, not the idiot. Holding them financially responsible doesn't mean you forgive them. It just gives you the ability to have Wedding 2.0 without them, Jew Wolfie added. I love this response for 3 reasons. Anytime they try to initiate contact, you can reply, "Do you have my money? No? Okay, goodbye." The burden in terms of fixing the situation is clearly in their court. No ambiguity. And 3, people who owe you money tend to avoid you. The problem solves itself.